My name is Virginia Sierra Bear. My maiden name was Sierra. My married name is Bear. I'm a Lakota and Oglala Sioux from Pine Ridge, South Dakota. I was born 70-some years ago on the reservation there, received my education there. Married my husband. I have 2 daughters. The oldest one is name is Inez, and Inez Schinderlein is her name. She has 1 son. She lives in Glide, Oregon, works for the Forestry Department. Her son is married to a Navajo lady and lives in Arizona. My younger daughter, his name is Arlene, excuse me, Arlene Wimp is her name. She's married to a non-Indian. I have a wonderful son-in-law. They live in San Antonio, Texas. Arlene is a travel agent. Bill, my son-in-law, is an insurance adjuster. And I'm real proud of my son-in-law. He's very into American history. American Indian history. I think he knows more about Indians than I do sometimes. My husband we're both Sioux, but there's 8 bands of Sioux in the Lakota. In the Lakota band, there's the Brule. The Brules were called loafers. Hung Papas, where they were border on the outer edge. The Oglalas, we were called dirt throwers. Mnichojus were people that planted near the water. Sanarks are without a bow. 2 kettles, where they always had 2 pots cooking, so they were called 2 kettles. Blackfoot, which is not the Blackfoot of Montana, they were called Sisapa, means Blackfoot. And the Yankton, which was a cut hand, they call them. So I am from the Oglala band, and my ancestral chief was Chief Red Cloud. My grandmother, my mother's mother, my father's mother comes from the Red Cloud clan. I'd like to show a portrait of my mother. She's very traditional. She was a full-blood Lakota woman. From her, I learned all the things that a female should know about her life, and I'm very thankful that she taught me all the things that I try to carry on through my life, and hoping that I can pass it on to some of you students that are probably interested in learning about the life of an Indian lady. And I consider myself very fortunate. She spoke Indian, Lakota, so I grew up in a home that spoke Lakota. This is a portrait of my father. My father was, I don't know if you're able to see him, but this is taken in Colorado when he was a young man. My father was a half-breed. His father was Spanish and his mother was a Lakota woman. My grandparents met each other at Fort Laramie. My grandpa, Sierra, was, my maiden name was Sierra. He was a cook, traveled with cattle herd, migrated up at Fort Laramie where Chief Red Cloud was there, and there was my grandmother was there, so they met. This is a picture of my older brother, and I wanted to show this to this little log cabin. It was where I was born, about a place called Wolf Creek, which is about 7 miles north of Pine Ridge Agency. So that was a little log house. It was a long log house. That was where my life began.
Let's talk a little bit about your professional career.
My husband and I met, and he's a health educator with the Public Health Service. He was formerly a school teacher, and myself, I always wanted to be a nurse, so I started my career. I came to school to Oklahoma, Lawton, Oklahoma, and became an LPN. Went back to the reservation, and where I met my husband, and him being a health educator, and I was an LPN, and he had an occasion to go to school to Berkeley, California, when Berkeley was really wasn't at the age of the flower children. So we went to Berkeley back in the 50s, and he got his master's in public health. And my wish was always wanting to be a registered nurse, so we traveled lived many places with his work. Idaho, back to South Dakota, Montana. Then when we came to 1968, my husband, my 2 daughters and I came to Claremore, Oklahoma, and Rogers State had just started their program in the nursing program, so I took my prerequisites there, and I was telling Professor Foley here that kind of got a low grade when after so many years it was kind of a shock, so I decided I'm going to really work at this till I make. Getting an F was a low blow. So I made a B by the time I got out of English class. So I took my prerequisites. Then I went to Bacone and got my RN. I came to work at Claremore Indian Hospital, and I was a supervisor there for 23 years. And altogether, my nursing career, working in private sector here and there, I have 27 years with the public health service and the rest in the private sector, which was a good experience for me. So my father always stressed education to my brothers and I. He used to say to me, "My girl, your mother and I are not going to be with you all your life, so it is very important you get an education. You're going to have to learn to live in the white man's world, but be proud of your heritage, and always think that never think you're better than somebody, always think that you're just as good." So I always try to carry that philosophy along my life road.
Mm-hmm. And you retired when?
So I retired from the Claremore Indian Hospital in 1994. My husband had taken ill. He had cancer. So being a nurse, I thank the Almighty that I have that profession. So I took care of my husband till he passed on. Mm-hmm. So I live alone now, and I have a lot of memories in my home here.
Mm-hmm.
And I have happy memories.
Mm-hmm.
And so my husband gave me a good life, and he left me with a nice home. My daughters are both educated, and I think I mentioned before, they're on their own. I cried when I first left home, and my mother cried so hard, her crying stayed in my ears so long. I thought, when I have a family, I'm not going to cry, let my children see me cry. So I never let my daughters see me cry when they left home. Mm. So that was one lesson I learned, is not to cry. Mm-hmm. So in my life and things that my mother taught me, I would like to show you things that were taught to me. One of the things that before I show you these things in my home is, since we're talking about the female of the American Indian woman, when I was becoming to that age where we come through our menstrual cycle, and they call it living by yourself. And I'm fortunate that when that time was coming, my mother told me, she said, "Something's going to happen to you, but don't be frightened." Well, when it did happen, I thought I was going to bleed to death, but I didn't. But we had a little log cabin, so she took me to the little log cabin, and I stayed there for 4 days and 4 nights alone.
Was it the same one you were born in?
No, no,
Okay.
this is another little cabin. My father's a rancher, so we had, I guess, what they call little cabins that relatives, when they'd come, they'd stay in that little cabin. So unfortunately, I don't have a picture of the little cabin where I stayed for 4 days, but it taught me to be patient, to meditate, and she gave me some material and quilt blocks to make a quilt. And someplace in my belongings, I do have the quilt blocks that I worked on, but I don't know where they're at right now. I can't put my finger on them. But I was not allowed to speak to anybody. I was there alone. The only one that came to the cabin was my mother with my food and water. So, but when I think about it, I wasn't scared. So I guess it taught me that today I live alone, but I'm never afraid, because it taught me to be patient and try to be patient. So when the 4 days was over with, well, then my aunt and my mother came and they bathed me with sage water, and I'll show you some sage after a while. And they told me that I was now a young lady, that I wasn't to wrestle with my brothers and my cousins, that I was now walk the life of a young woman, and that to keep not only my body clean but my thoughts clean. All the do's and don'ts. So like if you went to a Sundance, don't go to the Sundance if you're having your period. Just things that you shouldn't do after you become a teenager. So I try to carry those through my life. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to pass this on to my 2 daughters. I understand that on a reservation, a lot of the people are having this with their daughters now, which I think is real nice. Then they had a dinner for me after, so I started my walk of life as a young lady then. Before that, I was a tomboy. I used to wear bib overalls, and so now I like to. The things that my mother taught me, first of all, I like to show you dress wear that the Lakota women wear.
Okay. Go ahead.
let me say to Professor Foley, if you show the picture of my daughter portrait on the wall, she was a princess at Rogers State College in 1982. By the way, she graduated from Rogers State College with her associate degree, her and my son-in-law. So that's the clothing that she's wearing, I made them for her because it was such an honor for her to be a princess. But since she was graduating, that was my intention, that I was going to make her dress for her. So and so this is the outfit this is her dress. If I had a model, I'd have a, this is her dress that I made. This is a choker, and it has Indian head, the buffalo head and the Indian head nickels on it. And only the Sioux women wear turtle designs, so this is a turtle design on her dress. Now, some of the Sioux people fully bead their dress, but since I had such a short time to finish this dress for the occasion, that I just made it the partially beaded. So I made her this dress. This belt she wears this, it goes around the waist. I know it won't go around my waist, but I just wanted to, they call this the tail. And this is women a long time ago, they called this strike-a-log pouch. She carried her flint in there. And in the back, she carried a knife sheath. So when you see a Sioux women or some of the other tribes also wear these, they wear the little flint pouch and the knife sheath. Mm-hmm. But we don't carry knives now. They did in the olden days. Mm-hmm. These are her moccasins and her leggings that go with the dress. It took me 1.5 years to make her leggings and her moccasins.
And what's the design on there?
This is Sioux designs. These are geometric. The Sioux people, the Lakota people, are noted for their geometric designs, and the meaning. They're like, this is. I really don't know the meaning. It's in my book someplace. Mm-hmm. So that's my pattern that I use. I like those colors. So whatever I make, I usually I end up using those colors. They're my favorite colors. So a Sioux woman can wear a buckskin dress, or she can wear a cowrie shell dress. And this is my dress that was made for me by my cousin. And one of my friends called these a diamond necklace. These are bone necklaces that they used to wear bones, but these are made out of plastic now because bones are quite heavy. In the olden days, these were elk teeth that they wore. And it depended on how many elk teeth you had on a dress, was how many hunters were in your family, cousins and brothers, because there's only 2 teeth of the elk. So it would take a lot of elk to make an elk tooth dress. So that's my attire. The other dress that we wear is we call it a tea dress. And this is, it is shaped like a T. And then in my grandma's time, they wore, I call them squad dresses. They wore this is a contemporary dress, but they wore print dresses. And for some reason, they had great big buttons. I don't have buttons on mine, but my cousin made me this to wear as a contemporary dress. But this is the style that my grandmother and them wore. I also would like to show you another dress that the Sioux women wear, and this is a Sundance dress. When you're a Sundancer, this is what you wear. Just a plain tea dress. So those are the 4 types of dresses that a Lakota woman wears. And then over here, here's my leggings, just like my daughter. This is my I just finished those last year. These are my moccasins and my leggings that I made. This is my handbag. This is my eagle feather fan that I use when I dress up to dance. I carry this bag.
And you did the beading on the handle?
I made all these. Mm-hmm. This is my daughter's fan, and this fan was given to me, but I didn't make this. This fan was made for my daughter from a friend as a gift. Her name is Wanlu Barton. She's a Cherokee Indian. She made this for my daughter when she was princess. I made this bag for my daughter, and she took me about a year to make this, because it's very tedious beading. And that's floral bleeding, and I learned that from later on I'll show you a picture of the lady that taught me how to do the floral beadwork. I have all kinds of little bags here. These are rawhide. These are made out of rawhide. A long time ago, our people, they travel lightly, so their belongings, I call them Indian suitcase, and these are made out of rawhide, and some are shaped like boxes where they put their belongings, but nowadays people use them, they use them when they dance. So this is a bag. Here's another little bag, and this is mine. I wear that on this is my belt here, and it's got the porcupine quill work, so when I wear my shell dress, I wear those. And I put this is my flint pouch. Okay? And this is my knife sheath that I wear in the back. I have 2 knife sheaths. Now, in wearing a buckskin dress and a cloth dress, when my daughter wears her shell dress, I don't have a shell dress here, but when she wears her shell dress, it's this color, and these are her leggings that she wears. And these are the moccasins that she wears when she wears her shell dress. So she has 2 kinds of dresses to wear. This is a buffalo handbag.
Right.
I don't have a buffalo robe. This is the closest I'll have to it. And I bought this this fall at the convention, National Congress of American Indians. I thought it was really interesting because it had designs on there, and I thought that was really interesting. It tells about all the designs, what they stand for. And that's made out of rawhide. They're going, the people are going back to porcupine. By the way, I have porcupine quill earrings on.
Oh.
And this is porcupine quill. These are floral beadwork, and I just finished this the other day. I'm making this I bought this at Kohl's, and I dressed it up. Contemporary handbag for my daughter for her birthday. If you know how to do beading, you can do almost anything.
Oops.
Now where do you want to go? Okay. Where's my pointer?
Okay.
Okay, these pictures here is on my mother's side. This is my mother, my grandmother, my grandfather, my 2 aunts, and there's another aunt and 2 brothers that are not in that picture. And the oldest aunt, she's not in that picture, but this is a picture of her. And the reason why I wanted to show this picture is that for some reason our people traded with people from the coast, and they like the Cory shells and the Dandelion shells. So I've always wanted to make a dress like this. So I'm in the process of making a dress, and I'm very tedious because I have to, can you see it? I have to thread each shell separately. So I have 2 more rows to go. I do this in the winter time when I can't work outside. I love to work outside, but in the winter time I do this. So I wanted to show you that picture, hoping that it'll look like this when I finish it. So that's kind of my goal. So my grandfather's name was Yellow Boy, and they traveled at the Wild West show, and so I have portraits. He's got a peace medal that was given to him from the King of Belgium. This is my father's side, the Sierra side. This is my grandfather, my grandmother, my uncle, my father, and these are aunts and uncles. And these are offsprings of the Sierra family. This one here, that's his daddy, and these 3 here, that's their mother. This one on the end, that's her mother, and me, that's my daddy. That's the Sierra family. And I'm very proud because I have my coat of arms on the Washichu side.
The Washichu side. Will you talk again about how the people of Hispanic descent made it up there?
Oh yes, I asked my father. I said, "Grandpa, how did Grandpa and Grandma meet, Papa?" And he said, "Well," he said, I said, "He didn't talk English and she didn't talk. How did they talk?" He said, "They met sign language." He said, My father, he said, Grandpa Sierra came over on a cattle drive. He was a cook on a cattle drive, and they came up, migrated up to Fort Laramie, and that Fort Laramie, as history shows, was a place where they didn't have a stockade. Fort Laramie is different tribes would come there, and at the time Red Cloud was there with his clan. My mother, being from the Red Cloud clan, she met my grandfather there. On the Pine Ridge Reservation, you find Sierras, Hernandez, Gonzalez. Our grandfathers were all of Spanish descent. They migrated up into the Sioux country and married Sioux women. So that's where my heritage comes from. This is a picture of my grandfather, Yellow Boy. These are portraits that my mother had acquired, which was passed on to me. This is his mother, and her name was Tall Woman. And I was telling Professor Foley about her background. She has a leather glove on. She's got horseshoes and handprints on her dress. So when I was a young girl, when I saw this picture, I said to my mother, I said, how come she's got a leather glove on? And she said, well, she had medicine for horses, and she's like a veterinarian. She was driving a herd of horses back from Montana when they camped at Ulrich, South Dakota, when some cowboys that were drinking were harassing them. They were circling their camp saying, ooh, carrying on. And my great-grandmother held up her hand, begging them not to do that, when one of them took out his pistol and shot her hand. So I guess her hand was shriveled, so she wore that glove to cover her little shriveled hand. So that's why she has the horseshoe for being having medicine for the horses, and the hand is that she was wounded by the enemy. So that's what her dress depicts on. By the way, her name's Tall Woman, and so my daughter Arlene, I had her carry on her name. And this is a picture of Pemmican. He was one of the survivors of the Little Bighorn, and I guess we'll go into the hallway where you can see pictures of the survivors.
Okay.
1948, Bill Gorthy was a photographer. Young man said he met these survivors of the Little Bighorn, and these two on the end, many of you probably have seen T-shirts, seen pictures of them. There used to be a mural on the airport in Rapid City, South Dakota. But these men were still living in 1948 when pictures were taken. These two, Little Warrior and Comes Again, were medicine men, so they don't have war bonnets on. These 6 were warriors. They were young men when they took part in the Battle of the Little Bighorn. This one, Pemmican, is my great uncle. That's my grandmother's brother. So that his name is Indian name. Pemmican means Wakaphapi, which means pemmican. As some of you know what pemmican is, made out of dried meat and choke cherries and tallow, where hunters carried with them. Today's a delicacy to have that. So Mr. Gorthy told me when he met them, he said they were very humble, majestic men, and only 3 of them spoke English. So that's my great uncle, Pemmican. He never got married, never had children, so my nephew, I had to carry his name on, so his name is Pemmican. My nephew's a sun dancer.
Okay.
Well, let's talk about these books first, okay? Since Professor told me that this Indian study program that you're studying about the Indian women, I suggested to him that this book is a very nice book about the leadership of a woman back in the olden days and how women are treated today. I would suggest that some of you read this book that would be interested, and the name of it is Walking in a Sacred Manner. Very interesting book. This is another book about the Osage people. This is about a woman, and it's kind of sad, but it's historical.
Bloodland.
Bloodland is
About
the name. Is the name of it.
About the Osage murder.
Right.
All that.
And this lady is, they call me Agnes, and when I lived on the Crow Reservation, she took me in as kind of like a daughter. She taught me by the way, I have a Crow outfit, but I don't have it out. They adopted me in their clan, and one night they had a dance, and they called 3 people, and one of them was me. They said, Virginia Bear, and I looked, and my friend said, go on, they want you to sing. And I said, I don't know how to sing. I said, they were adopting me in their clan, so they call it Reed's clan. So they dressed me up in their crow moccasins and a crow dress, and but I don't have it out. I don't think I can get into my crow dress now. But that's another book. She taught me this floral beadwork that I have in this showcase here. My first one was this blue one here, and I progressed as I went on, and so I made one for each of my daughters. And in a lot of the beadwork, well, this is porcupine quill work here. When you learn to bead, you can make almost anything. This is loom beading, and that's a hair piece that you wear in your hair. And here's a wristwatch band, and that's done on a loom. And when I say loom, I'm talking about a loom like this. And just the other day, a friend of mine was wanting to learn how to do loom beading, so I taught her how to do loom beading. And you thread up a loom, and this is how you do, and this is how you can create things out of loom beading. You can make them narrow, wide. You can make belt buckle, belts, headbands, just almost anything you can make out of that. Years ago, when I took up beading, I didn't take up beading till after I had my family. A good friend of mine gave me all her designs. So these are all geometrical designs. And this is a very old book, so I'm very fortunate that I have this book. I haven't decided who I'm going to pass it on to, because neither one of my daughters, unfortunately, know how to bead, but hopefully maybe one of them will take up beading that I can pass this book on to her. This lady the crow lady that taught me how to pass her floral designs on to me. So I have these, can you see okay? I have these floral designs like you see on my belts. She passed these on to me. Usually if you're interested in beading and if you know how to learn how to bead, some elder will pass on her designs, which you know is an honor. And this is how you make soles for moccasins. So I have patterns. This is my grandson's footprint, big one. Our people today have big feet. So these are patterns that I've acquired. So you could make things on a loom, many things. Like here's a friend of mine made me this. She's Cherokee. I'm also an Eastern Star. I belong to the Order of the Eastern Stars, and so she made me this to wear with my dress wear. Here's porcupine quill work. This was kind of a lost art, but it's coming back in a lot of our people. I used to watch my aunt sit there and chew on these little quills. These are porcupine quills. And she used to sit there and flatten them with her teeth, and then different fruits, berries that they use for dye. And she made vests, moccasins. Unfortunately, I don't have anything. I have pictures of my uncle with his pipestone. There's a quarry in Flanders, South Dakota, where Indian people from all over the country would go to get their pipestone to make their bow for their pipes. This is a turtle, and turtles are important to the Lakota people, women. When a young female is born, when her navel dries up, the mother usually takes it and beads it into the shape of a turtle. And the boy's navel that dries up, the umbilical cord, is woven into a lizard. The lizard's for boy and the turtle for girls. Turtle stands for fertility, because female is childbearing, and it wards off all kinds of diseases. So only the women are supposed to wear the turtle design. That's how come I have it on my daughter's dress. I was going to put this on my husband's blanket, but I never did get to. Since he's gone, maybe someday I'll make a blanket and put it on. This is also loom beading. Years ago, I taught this couple how to bead on a loom. I said, you need to, first of all, if you want to learn how to bead, use a loom, because it teaches you how to pick up the beads, uniform the beads, and have patience in beading. And his wife said, I want to bead on buckskin. And I said, lady, that's hard. You got to learn how to do beading on a loom first.
And walk before you can
right.
crawl before you can walk.
Right. Some of you, if you go to powwows, you see women wearing different kinds of shawls. These were all gifts to me. They're different designs. I have some on a wall here, hanging here. This is given to me at a Sundance by a Sundancer, so this is kind of a special shawl. These shawls were made at a factory in Lame Deer, Montana, but the factory's now closed, so these shawls that are out are kind of collector's items now. In the Lakota world, here in Oklahoma, I noticed that the tribes use Pendleton blankets when special occasions of any honor thing. They use the Pendleton blankets. With the Lakota people, we use star quilts, and this star quilt has got an eagle on it and teepees. This quilt here is my quilt, and it's the broken star. Two years ago, when I went back to South Dakota, a niece of mine said, Aunt Virginia, here's your quilt, put it away. That meant that I'm at the age now where the Creator can call me anytime, so I better have my star quilt ready. The Lakota people, the star quilt, when you're born, baby star quilt's given to you. When you graduate from high school, grade school, or whatever honor you have, or college, a star quilt's given to you. When you get married, a star quilt. So it's an honor quilt. And I always wondered, where did they learn these designs? So I did research on it, and I found out that years ago, when our people, children were taken away from their parents and sent off to school to Americanize them, they sent them to Carlisle, Shamawa. So the ones that went to Carlisle, that's Amish country, so the Amish ladies taught the girls how to make star quilts, the design. So when the girls came back from Carlisle with the design of the star quilt, the Lakota people just really loved it because it has the 8 points. And I think at the beginning I told you there's eight bands of the Lakota people, so that's what they use it to signify the 8 bands. So the star quilt is a very important quilt in a Lakota home. And at giveaways, when I had memorial dinner for my people this past May, I put a star quilt on each 6 chairs that I had out there. That's an honor to do that. So it takes a while to collect them. Okay, we talked about I made moccasins. Well, these are buckskin that we buy a long time ago. They tan their own buckskin.
How'd they do that?
When my brothers when they'd go hunting, my mother and father said, "You be sure and say a prayer." So, before you took the life of a deer, you would say, "Brother, I need you for food and I need you for clothing." So when the deer is butchered, well, a long time ago, they made use of the buffalo and the deer, the skin for clothing, the hide for teepees, everything we use, their bones for, I don't have anything, but I've seen where my grandmother had spoons made out of buffalo horns and all to scrape the hide. And what they did was, I have a picture of my mother. This book is called Quill and Beadwork of the Western Sioux. And a man from Kansas City asked me to make a Sioux war shirt. And he brought me this book, and I looked through it, and there was my mother's picture there. Oh, she was known for making rawhide soles. So she would stake out the hide, and she'd take brains and ashes, and I regret that I didn't learn all the ingredients, but she would sit out there and stake this. You spread all that ingredients on there and scrape the hide off from it and work the... And so I have a cousin whose picture I have on the wall. picture of that cousin there. He learned from my mother how to make rawhide soles and how to tan hides. But unfortunately, I didn't. I was too busy playing, I guess. I thought she would be with me all my life. So these are the buckskin, and they have different kinds of hides. I call it white man's buckskin now, but you can get Indian tan, and they're quite expensive. Some people still do that, but and then here's the smoked buckskin that you can make everyday moccasins or vest or whatever you would like. I keep some on hand. Long time ago, they made the spinal cord of the cow or buffalo. They use that to make sinew because it's the toughest part of the buffalo or cow. Today we Indians use this. I call this white man's sinew. You can buy it by the roll, and it's almost like sinew. Mm-hmm. So, and these are the buckskin hide that I was telling you about. You can buy these and that's the rawhide you use for soles. Rawhide is better because it doesn't stretch. Mm. This is latigo hide, which some of the people use, but they're not as durable. They moccasins get out. Mm-hmm. They get out of shape. Indian foods. When I was growing up, my mother and I would go cherry picking. Before August, around July, the choke cherries they're ripe, start getting red. So choke cherry picking time. She'd harness up the team of horses and make lunch, and we'd get in a wagon. Away we'd go down into valleys where choke cherries grew, and we'd pick choke cherries. And we had lard buckets with tea towels, and we run. So first thing I did was I'd eat as much as I could eat. Your mouth would get all black from eating choke cherries, but she'd say, "Virginia, you're not picking choke." "Yes, Mama," and we'd pick gallons of it. The next day we'd wash the choke cherries. I don't have a mallet, but we had a mallet with a little, like a mortar and pestle type of thing. Mm-hmm. And so you pound the cherries, and the choke cherries are quite small. As modern people now, we can it instead of drying it. Mm-hmm. So you pound that cherry and you made it into little hamburger patties. Hmm. This is what people a long time ago made. They called it wasna, pemmican. I talk about my great uncles. Long time ago, the warriors, that's what they carried. They took the bladder of the buffalo, and that was their little lunch pail. So they made the wasna, choke cherries, dried meat, tallow, made little pemmican balls, and they carried that in their little bladder bags on their hunt on their journey. So these are like little hamburger patties. So you dry as many as you can for the winter, and in a winter time you soak it and you thicken it with flour. It makes a nice pudding. You can dip your fry bread in, and it's delicious. Mm-hmm. The other Indian food that we have is the wild turnips. And it's been said that a Lakota woman is known by how long a braid of her turnips are. Huh. And how much choke cherries, how many sacks has she put away for the winter. Uh-huh. Turnip digging is a tedious job. Around July, you start looking along the hillsides, and it's a real pretty grayish looking plant, and has little purple flowers, lavender flowers. So you start watching when those flowers start, it's time to go dig turnips. So my mother would get out her long crowbar, and away we'd go, and she'd stand there, and she said that she'd see a patch. I don't know how she did it, but so I got pretty good at it too. So we'd dig these turnips. Has a husk on it, has a long tail, so you peel the husk off and then you braid it into a braid like this. And these last for years and years. I've had these hanging in my house, and my cousin said, "Did you bring some timsilas for our dinner last night?" I said, "No, they're old." And she said, "They're not old. All you have to do is soak them." you all heard of jerky. When my father would butcher, my aunts used to say, Virginia's like a little old lady. She really knows how to, they say Oglala means slicing beef jerky. So this is beef jerky. But the ones I made was, my father had long pole racks where we would dry the meat, and you take a muscle of the meat and you cut it in two and you start slicing it one way and then slicing it the other way. And I was real good at making jerky meat. They dried their corn, sweet corn, and I have these little sacks to show so you all can see it. They, I'll have to tell you a story about my mother. My father raised cattle, and they had a big garden. And early in the morning, my father would say, Virginia, or daughter, he never called me by my name as daughter. He'd say, daughter, radishes and onions don't grow by themselves. That means I had to go out and hoe. I used to say, when I have my own home, I'm not going to have a garden. Well, anyway, my mother had several rows of sweet corn, and so that one morning she picked all that sweet corn and cooked it, and we had some for the noon meal. And her and I cut all that, and she had these screen nets, and so back of the house she put all her sweet corn. When we got through, we kind of had a little siesta. My father being half Spanish, we always had a little siesta. So all of a sudden we heard, caw, caw, caw. And my mother said, Ma, she said. She jumped out of her bed, and my father's favorite cow ate up all her sweet corn. She just sat down and just cried. And so my dad went and loaded up his gun. He said, here, Mama, he said, you can shoot her. Oh, no, I don't want to shoot her, because he knew that was her favorite cow. So there's a little storytelling that I'll have to tell you about choke cherries. When you eat too much choke cherries, as a child growing up, they said, don't eat too much choke cherries. And they'll tell you a story about iktomis. Have you ever heard of iktomi stories? They're the trickster.
Oh,
He's a trickster, okay.
Yeah.
A trickster, iktomi, we call him iktomi in Lakota. Iktomi was just coming along, and he saw this beautiful choke cherries just hanging, and he said, he just started eating them. And the choke cherry said, hey, Iktomi, don't eat too much of us, we'll make you sick. He said, I'm bigger than you, and I'm stronger than you. He said, you can't make me sick. So he just went on eating, and he just got so constipated. He was just miserable, and he about died. And choke cherries will make you constipated. So the moral of the story is don't eat too much choke cherries. And there's other, like currants, wild little, we call them wild tomatoes. You don't eat too much of those too either. There's moral to all these stories. And the other one was Iktomi was trotting down the line, and he saw grouse dancing on a hilltop. And so he stopped and listened. And said, his mouth just watered. He thought, oh, here's some prairie chickens. So he put a bundle on his back, and he started walking alongside. And these prairie chickens looked over and said, Iktomi, where are you going? And he said, oh, don't bother me. I got some sacred songs here. I'm going to a special place to sing these songs. Can you sing one for us? And he said, no, I don't have time for you. Please, please. And he said, all right. He said, on one condition. If I sing one song to you, you got to promise me that you'll close your eyes and don't open your eyes. So they all got in their circle, and he started singing this song, and they had their eyes just close them tight. And so he got his club, and he was just hitting him. All of a sudden, one opened their eyes and said, Iktomi's killing us, and they flew away. But he told me they'd have red eyes, so today the prairie chicken is known for its red eyes. So the moral of this story I'm telling is it's got a moral to it. So he gathers up the ones that he knocked out and made a nice fire, and he put some down in the ashes and the coals, and he put some on a spit. And he's laying against his tree just watching his prairie chickens roasting. And big old tree, the tree he's leaning against, the limbs were just kind of rubbing against each other, kind of irritating. So he said, you brothers, he said, quit fighting. But it kept on. So finally he climbed up there and pulled the two branches away, and the wind stopped blowing, and his arm got caught. So he couldn't get away. So there he was up in that tree branch. By the time old Coyote was going across, and he said, hey, whatever you do, don't come over here. He said, I got some prairie chickens cooking. So old Coyote just come down there and just had his fill and started licking his chops and started trotting away. And he said, Oh, by the way, there's some under the coals. Don't take them. So he turned around and got those. The moral of the story is don't be greedy.
Okay. Well,
I'd like to share with you, I'm a sun dancer, and I won't go into that because I'll just briefly tell you that I'm a pipe carrier. I'm an elder now, and I've sun danced the required time, and I have that honor now that I can have an eagle whistle, which I have. The sun dancers don't. Only the men use the eagle whistle. But me being an elder, I can't use it at the sun dance, but I can have it in my possession.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever I go outside and pray, I use my eagle whistle. Somehow, like I say, the coastal Indians and the Lakota people had some contact that the shells, the Cory shells and the denim shells I talked about, and then they had to use the shells to burn when they do their offerings, tobacco. This is my little tobacco pouch.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of tobacco is it?
Okay, this is Knick-Knick. So whenever we make offerings, we put a little tobacco in there, and we burn it, and we smoke ourselves off. We either use tobacco, you can smoke off a home, to bless a home, or somebody might come to you and ask you to be blessed or to be smoked off. So you can either use tobacco or you can use sweet grass. This is sweet grass, which we use, has a very nice sweet smell to it. You can also burn that. And as Lakotas, we use the sage. Sage we use, it grows tall like this. And it's, we use it in the sun dance, we use it in prayers, we use it for upset stomach, toothache. It's a medicine. So sage is very important in our lives. So you can either use tobacco, sweet grass, or break off a piece of this sage and put it in your little, and you light it up, and when you can smoke yourself off, or whoever's asking you for a blessing. And you have eagle. This is my eagle. By the way, I went through the forestry department to get my eagle. This is many years ago. I was still working then, and I had to have from my agency, I had to have my roll number and all that. From medicine man, had to verify why I was going to use this eagle, what the purpose of the eagle from my position. So I do have a number, so I can use eagle. This is a whole eagle, and these are the fans. This is my husband's fan, and this is my fan. This has been used many times in the Sundance. Now, my nephews carry this because women, we don't use the fan, eagle fan in the Sundance. So only the men carry this, and they use the whistle. So this fan has been used many times. And this is my husband. So these I'll pass on to my daughters, Arlene and Inez. They each get a fan. The sage, we use that, like I said. A nephew of mine came and blessed his home for me, so I can wear this in my hair. I also have an eagle cleft that I didn't show you. This is my husband's pipe. I think I told you all about the pipe, the quarry in Flanders, South Dakota. This is my pipe that I carry when I participate in the Sundance. I have it wrapped in red. Hasn't been used since the last time I danced. This is my first pipe that I owned. I'll show you the bow, but I did this beadwork on here. My first Sundance, this was used at the Sundance. It's kind of special. I have a nephew that goes to the quarry and gets tons of this pipestone, and this is what it looks like. This is just a small piece, but he brings them. He lives in Hot Springs, South Dakota, and his name is Zimica, Spanish, like me. He made this. To me, this is just, it's too heavy to carry in a Sundance, but he made this pipe specially for me, and it has the turtles on it, since I'm a female. And since my name is Bear, he carved the bear and the eagle on one side. and it's quite heavy. I'll let you.
Ooh, it is heavy.
So this is a special pipe. My nephew carved that for me. When this is a pipe bag, I'm supposed to do some beadwork on this. Someday I'll get to it. This is my pipe bag. By the way, the first year I went to Sundance, I had to have a bag for my pipes, so I made my own out of canvas and drew my own pipe. That was my first pipe bag. So our pipes are sacred to us. I'll have to tell you the story of the pipe. The Lakota people a long time ago, 2 warriors went on either a quest, vision quest or hunting or whatever. Out in the wilderness here, it was a beautiful maiden appeared to them. And one was frightened because he knew that all of a sudden here's a woman, beautiful woman appearing, a maiden. This is something that sacred. The other thought evil of her. He thought, well, here's a woman way out here in the wilderness by herself. So she looked at him and she said, you thought evil of me. And there was just a cloud of smoke, and when it disappeared, all it was just a rack of bones. And she turned to the other warrior and said, you go home and tell your people that I will be coming in a few days to prepare a place for me to put up a teepee. So he was quite frightened. He got home back to the camp and he told them what happened. So they put up a teepee like she instructed, and sure enough, one day she appeared and she was carrying a bundle. And they didn't know what the bundle was, and she had this bundle in her hand. She came inside the people and she told them that she brought them this pipe. This pipe is located in Cherry Creek, South Dakota. It's owned by Orville Looking Horse is his name. And they have a Sundance every year. I've never been there. I always wish someday I could go there. And she told her people way back there and that in times of need, this pipe's going to cry out to you. And I understand during World War I, they heard it cry. During all the wars that occurred, they have heard that pipe cry out. So to the Lakota people, the pipe is very sacred. So we don't have it showing out we don't have it laying out as a showpiece. It's sacred. So, but also you don't keep it in a bundle all the time. When you want to pray, you take out your pipe. This is what you use to clean when you get through smoking, you take a piece of sage and you put it in your bowl. Medicine man told me, he said, your bowl, he said, by the way, the man that made this, his initials were on here. After several years of sun dancing, his initial has disappeared. The medicine man said, he made that, but it doesn't belong to him, it belongs to you. Always remember, he said, the Lakota people is always on the top and the white man's on the bottom. The coloration, what he told me. So you use this when you load your pipe. And there's a ceremony to load your pipe also.
So this is the pipe filling song.
Yeah. Remember I told you about filling your pipe? Chanope, Gashela, So that's the song, you sing that when you're filling your pipe.
I see.
So it's a sacred song.
Mm-hmm.
The words are like, I'm filling my pipe that you gave me. When you're out in the center there, please think of me. Whatever you ask for, it shall come to you, is the words to it.
Mm-hmm.
Here's talking about eagle feathers. So I have acquired eagle feathers. I have very few left. This is a flight feather. And these here are little fluffs. These are more or less kind of used in the hair. And the white fluffs, a lot of the Indian maidens, they make a real pretty fluff for them to wear. Usually Indian maidens wear those. And there's a little white fluff hanging in my doorway that my nephew came and smoked my house and put the little fluff.
Okay.
Well, this shawl here was Arlene wore when she was princess at Rogers State College. It was given to her by the association. It was made for her, and she's got a banner and a crown that she's wearing in her picture.
Because you spent so much time in the health profession, if you could, for our class, talk a little bit about what you think are the major health challenges for American Indians.
Well, in my career as a nurse, I find that diabetes is one of the prevalent diseases of our American Indians, gallbladder, heart disease, but diabetes seems to be the one that really has taken over our Indian people. And of course the others are young people, it's alcoholism. I think these are two areas that those of you that are going into health professions, if you would work with the Indian people about their health issues. Diabetes is one of the things, and it's very difficult to teach diabetics about their condition, because like a person has surgery, there's an incision, a wound is there, or etc. But with diabetes, it's a hidden disease, and a diet is one of the most important things, and it's pretty difficult in American Indians' lifestyle of diet. We love fried bread, and we love all these rich foods that are not good for us, and so that's one of the important things. But also one must realize that a lot of our Indian people don't have the means of getting the proper diet that nation on a whole do have. So that's one of the important things that I think more should be emphasized on the diet of our American Indian people. And weight. Weight is another. Walking, a long time ago, if you see old pictures of our people, their physique was, you didn't see obese people. They were all pictures that I've seen of our young people. They were, because they ran, they walked, they're hunting and everything. And so today we don't have that privilege. You can always walk, walking is very important. Diet and exercise is important. Smoking is another thing. Of course, our ancestors introduced tobacco to the white man, but it's used in a different way, and wasn't used like our people used it. Alcoholism is a big problem today. It's even worse because drugs is involved. And to me, when I look at the health issues of our young people, especially alcoholism, is that we come up with our culture as Indian people. And I have found in my walk of life that I learned to balance the two worlds. I learned all these things that I've shared with you, but my parents had taught me, my mother had taught me. But you have to learn to balance the two, and that's very difficult. And I think today a lot of our young people get frustrated because of that, because they haven't quite learned how to balance being an Indian and being living in a white man's world, so to speak. It's like being a tightrope walker. Mm-hmm. But it's beautiful being an Indian, I think, because, you know, there's days that if there's a dance, I can put on my Indian dress and go and dance and hear the drums and lose myself into that world. A lot of people don't have that privilege. But the next day I put on my so-called white man's clothes, because we have to live in a society of the majority, and it's very difficult. But education is one thing that is really important, like my father told me, and it has helped me to live in the two worlds. Mm-hmm. I'm very fortunate that I've learned to balance. I think one of it is because being a nurse mm-hmm. has taught me that alcohol is not good. Mm-hmm. Proper diet is important in our lives. And goodness knows I love fried bread like anybody else, but I have learned to watch my diet. Mm-hmm. I try to exercise as much as I can, but I tend to put on a little weight. I'm a lot heavier than I was when I was younger. So those of you that are in the health profession, I think it's important that you go and work amongst your people and stress the importance of this, that teach them that to be proud that they are of Indian descent, that's be proud that you're an Indian. That's what my parents taught me. But also learn to live that you have to, it's a competitive world that we live in. It's difficult at times, but you have to keep trying, don't despair. And I know as an Indian, I shared with Professor Foley here that when I went back to school, the professor told me to write my equation in chemistry, and I wasn't quite ready, and that's how we Indians are. We don't like to do something unless we're quite ready, and there's nothing wrong with that. When the time comes, do it.
Mm-hmm. Well, what kind of encouragement do you have for young women or professional women or women who are interested in careers and run into the challenges that women have when they are trying to progress in the workforce?
Well, my husband was, he had his master's in public health. That is, I don't have a BSc and I have an associate degree in nursing, but one thing my husband used to say was, it's difficult to be an Indian in the white man's world because you have to do twice as much to prove your worth, and that is true. As an Indian person, you have to do a little bit more. I know from my own experience in nursing, my instructor used to give me 2 patient med cards to make, while the other students only got 1 card to make. Mm-hmm. And to me, that was unfair, but I was going to show her that I was determined. So that's the key word, be determined. Mm-hmm. To survive in the society we live in, have determination, be proud of your heritage, be proud that I'm an American Indian, and I'm going to be a nurse, I'm going to be a doctor, I'm going to be a lawyer, or whatever walk of life you choose. Have that determination. If you're going to stumble at times, pick yourself up and go. These are really important issues in your life. Don't get discouraged. I know people do get discouraged, but hey, there's nothing wrong in being discouraged. Just pick yourself up and keep going. But I think determination is a key word in any walk of life that we take. And so, to the students that could see this tape, I feel honored and privileged that Professor Foley has come into my home, and I've shared what little I have here that was taught to me, handed down from my ancestors, and hopefully I hope that what I have shared with you will be helpful to you in your walk of life, whatever you choose to be. And with that, I will say Mitakuyasi means all my relatives. I thank you.